The one day I was at a sports event in South Africa, and the one guy said something that really stuck in my head. He said, every day I eat a lot of carbs, so that in case I have to run a marathon the next day, I will be ready. And I was thinking, what a strange way of going through life, because we don't run marathons that often. You kind of plan ahead, and you have to train ahead so that you are ready for the event. And it made me think of us as Christians. So every day we gather this knowledge of the teachings of Christ, and we come together on a Sunday worship service so that we can worship this God we believe in, and that we can actively be part of the Christian community, for in case that we may use that knowledge and that faith the next day. Not that we always do it, but sometimes we do use it. Henry Ford, you all know him, a very well-known businessman, said these words: you can't build a reputation on what you are going to do. It doesn't work like that. Your reputation is built on what you have done, what you did. We can't build a reputation on a wish list, or these days it's very popular to have a bucket list. So if your bucket list consists of, I want to do a bungee jump, or I want to do river rafting, everybody would say, wow, what an adventurous person, although you're sitting on your couch at home doing nothing. It doesn't work like that. So your reputation cannot be an adventurous person. Your reputation is just a couch potato, because that is actually what we do. John the Baptist had a reputation. He was the voice in the wilderness, and he brought a message that was very unusual for his day. Not only was his message and his words very unusual for the day that he lived in, but also the way his lifestyle portrayed who he was. So he lived in the wilderness, where he lived on locusts and honey. That's all that is available in that region. And he dressed accordingly. He wore the skin of wild animals. And by looking at him, and maybe he looked at like the picture up there today, by looking at him, everybody would say, but this is not how a respectable teacher of the Word of God would look like. We always have this image in our heads how a pastor must look like. When I went to my first congregation in South Africa, and that is 30 years ago, believe it or not, I lived in the manse which was at the end of the town, luckily, and I've always been a runner, so arriving in the new town, I seek out the new routes I can run in early morning. And there was these lovely side roads which turns into country roads outside of town, and I thought, ideal. This is where I can be peaceful and do my run, and nobody would even notice. So one afternoon I came back from church, and it was really hot summertime, and I went for a run just to clear my head. And as I hit the country roads, I took off my shirt. That's how we did it at university. We made up groups and we went out for runs, and we took off our shirts because Pretoria at that stage was very warm. So I did my run and came back home. Now this was before the days of cell phones and text messages. And I had a messenger or a message machine at my phone in the manse. And when I walked in, the red light bleeped, and I knew there was a message. So I played the message, and the message said something like this: please, you are our pastor. Don't run without a shirt on the roads. It's not appropriate. And I learned quite quickly that being in a certain position in a certain rural, not small town, big town, did mean something. You had to kind of dress accordingly, you had to behave accordingly. You had to have a reputation of being the minister of the church. And I overstepped that line, and I will never forget that. That's why I'm always very, very careful if I change my dress, like today to short sleeves and not a long sleeve and tie. We also have this expectation of our leaders in town, of our political leaders. You won't see a political leader go to a meeting representing the country and he goes into with short pants and flip-flops and a t-shirt. That doesn't work. But here this man, known as the voice in the wilderness, came dressed like this, and he even spoke to the leaders of the country at that stage. He lived like a wild man. Now, the wilderness in Israel today is where Jerusalem is, kind of in the middle of the country, and from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea, there is a high hill country, almost mountainous. It starts in the north where the Jabbok River comes into the Jordan River, roughly where the city of Jericho was, and it stretches down to the end of the Dead Sea. Now, this area was known as the wilderness because it was arid and dry, desert area, very hilly, mountainous, not really a lot of plants growing there, not a lot of wild animals. It was really a harsh and a rough country. The commentator Hendrickson wrote the following words about this area. He said, "It shimmers in the haze of the heat. The limestone rock is hot and blistering and sounds hollow to the feet as if there was some vast furnace underneath." So this is the area where this man lived. He made it his house. He made it himself comfortable there, and he adjusted, and his lifestyle showed that. But he didn't stay there. His voice went out. So the one day, he went to the governor, Herod Antipas, and he went into the governor's palace in Galilee, and he said to Herod Antipas, "You are illegally married. This wife of yours was your brother's wife, and therefore this marriage cannot be recognized in Judea." Now, this is the governor of Rome. They ruled over this area which was called Judea in Palestine. This man had it in his hand to kill John the Baptist immediately by hearing these words. But John the Baptist, although he didn't fear this man, he didn't keep quiet. In Afrikaans, we have a saying, and I will directly translate it into English. It says, he didn't fall on his mouth, which means he didn't keep anything back. He just speak the words. So this man just spoke the truth. Regardless of who this people is, he spoke to. And even if it meant he could lose his life, it doesn't matter to him, because he had to speak the truth. Herod had some kind of respect for John the Baptist because his wife Herodias was outraged and she wanted this man to be killed. But Herod took him and he put him in the dungeons below the palace, and they jailed him. So he would have been tied up by iron and kept safe in that dungeon space. So why did this happen? This family was not a respectable family of the Judean people. They were pushed upon the Judean people as their governor. Herod Antipas' father killed 3 of his own sons. He was the previous governor. He killed 3 of his own sons to extend his governorship over the Judean area. And then one of those sons, called Herod Philippe, he fled probably to Rome. And he built himself a mercantile empire because he had connections, His father was governor in Judea. They know the other governors. So the trade market was open to him, so he built this whole trade empire. Then Herod Antipas, the only son that was left that should follow his father in his footsteps as governor, left for Rome and visited Philip. And when he arrived, he saw, wow, my brother has a beautiful wife. And he seduced her. And she fell for him. She probably thought, this guy has more power. He will be the next governor. The man I'm married to is just a rich mercantile. I should step up in life. So they married, illegally. And they went back to Judea. And it's because of that John the Baptist went to this man and said to him, your marriage is illegal. You should rectify that. But he was silenced. Now, things haven't changed much. If you are familiar with the news the last couple of weeks, there was this reporter in Moscow, in Russia, that asked a couple of difficult questions to Vladimir Putin. Putin did not like the questions. The reporter is jailed for life because he dared ask uncomfortable questions. Times haven't changed. What happened to John the Baptist is happening currently to people around us. How many whistleblowers, steps ahead, come to the front and say, what we are being fed through the media is not the truth. And then the next thing we hear, oh, this person suddenly died. Healthy, but just suddenly died. They wanted to speak to this person, but he just suddenly disappeared. We can't find him. Do you know where he is? That is what's going on in our world. That is what's happening under our noses. But back to Herod Antipas. He had a feast in his house. And Herodias, she knew down in the dungeon is John the Baptist, and she brewed up this plan. And she sent her daughter, which was not the daughter of Herod Antipas. Remember, he stole this wife from his brother. So this daughter should have been his niece, his brother's daughter. So Herodias sent up the daughter to dance to the guests. Again, in those days, a young girl dancing in front of guests was normally a prostitute. And she would try and get business out of this event of dancing in front of royal and important people. Instead of that, Herod said to her, you're so beautiful, you did it so well, pick what you want. And of course, after Herodias got hold of this and planned this from behind, they picked the head of John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was killed. He was killed for what he believed in, and he was killed for not keeping his mouth shut. He was killed for speaking up. He was killed for doing things, not hiding away because he's scared. He was the unusual and reluctant hero. Because he was a guy and a man from the wilderness dressed in that clothes, he was not the one that you would expect would become a hero of his time. Yet Jesus Christ went down to John the Baptist when he was at the river Jordan, and he said to John the Baptist, you baptized me. Because what you are doing, what you are saying, and what you are performing in this world, I relate to. Jesus kind of said to John the Baptist, well done. I want to be baptized by you and not the other way around. So this was not just an ordinary man. And for doing what he believed in, he paid the ultimate price. He paid with his life. Truth is still truth, even if no one believes it. A lie is still a lie, even if everyone believes it. Out of respect, everybody kept quiet about the illegal marriage of Herod Antipas. Because fear. They were scared. Because maybe due to connections. by keeping and being in his good books, they could do the business they were busy with. They could enrich themselves. They could become prominent figures in society in Galilee of the day. A lie is a lie even if everybody believes it. And in most cases, most of the people do not even know it's a lie because it's just something they believe. And there are a multitude of lies in this world that we bow down to, that we just believe for various reasons. Maybe we did not do the investigation to know it's a lie. Maybe it's something that's been taught to us by the church for so many years that it should be the truth. Maybe it's something that my parents and my family believed so strongly in that I don't dare to stand up against that. There's a multitude of reasons why this is happening, why people believe a lie, and if you come to them with the truth, they will attack you. They will stand up against you bringing the truth because they believe in the lie. That is the world that John the Baptist lived in. He brought the truth and he paid with his life. Nobody wanted to believe him. They put him in jail and eventually killed him. And that is the price so many people in the modern world of today is paying for blowing the whistle. Saying this nonsense that you've been fed by the media is not the truth. This is the truth. And then they suddenly die. Just suddenly. So where do we stand within this? The topic this morning, and we've read from Mark 6. And it's the history of what happened to John the Baptist, Mark 6, verse 14 to 29. And the topic of the talk this morning, are we followers or are we doers? And that's a question only you can answer. Are you just a follower of the faith because that's how you've been brought up, that's what you've been taught in school, in church, at home, but never took the time to investigate for yourself if this, what they have taught you, is the actual truth? It is not an excuse to be a follower of a lie because you did not do your homework. It's not an excuse to say, oh, what a surprise, I didn't know. You have the world at your fingertips, and we call it Google. And you can search everything, and you can read both sides. Actually, my dad always said there's not two sides, there's always three sides. There's your side, there's their side, and there's the truth. So we always have to weigh up what we've been taught, what we believe, and what is actually the truth. And then that truth must move us into action, so that we become living doers of the truth. If I ask you this morning, so what is this truth? We're not many people here today, maybe 40. And we will definitely have 40 different answers of what is the truth. Because for somebody, it is to upload with carbs so that I can run a marathon tomorrow. For somebody else, it doesn't matter, I can take off my shirt and I can run when it's hot. So what if people see my back or my chest? For somebody else, it's, oh no, you have to be respectable because there's certain rules of society that we need to follow. You hear the drift of the story. So the first step of becoming a doer is to question your own truth. To ask the question, these things that I believe in, is it really true? Is that the real history that happened over the last 200,000 years? Is that the truth that archaeology shows us? Or do we say, I don't believe in this evidence because I've been taught something else. That is not an excuse. The first question we have to ask is, the things that we believe as Christians, is that actually true? If we go back into history to see where this faith is coming from and where we are heading. That's the beginning. And that, spoiler alert, is what we do at Faith United. Those are the questions I ask myself every week. This that we traditionally believed, is it actually the truth? And then I try to investigate, not always very successfully, where does this come from? Why did people say that? What was the circumstances? Why is it in our Bible? Why did people believe in this way? What happened for this to happen? And then we see that there's a man in the wilderness, an unusual guy. He did not keep quiet, and he lost his life. But through this, he teaches us, 2,000 years later, the very important lesson. Do what you need to do. And always follow the truth. And that is your responsibility. Not mine, not the church, yours. You have the responsibility to question your own faith, to ask the difficult questions. And together, we can search and try and find the answers. And then we do. Amen.